This is a Republican Socialist monument in the city cemetery. Patsy O'Hara and Maggie Devine, two of the hunger strikers, are buried here, and it's one of the most visited plots in the cemetery. And it's not without controversy either, because unionists and that were upset that they saw this was a glorification of violence and that, but it's a very special place. They people, Irish Republicans and Irish Republican Socialists. I remember whenever they were actually putting this up, I think the crane nearly collapsed off the back of the lorry there. It was so heavy here this year, but you can see they went to a bit of effort here to commemorate all the Republican dead, and it obviously looks quite expensive, so they regard it as a fine tribute to them. It's my mother's and father's grave there. We would visit it nearly every week, every second week here. It's special, just shows it's our cemetery, it's ours, it's where our people, you see your sense of belonging and who you are and what you are is where your family's buried, and this is where our family is, my mother and father. We're not far from my mother and father. Here's another very tragic event in Irish history. The victim of Stardust disaster here, this wee girl here there, 1981, she's only aged 19. I was 17 in 1981, around about the same age they were killed. There was a big fire in Dublin. It was a converted warehouse factory, and they turned it into a disco, and somebody started a fire. On Valentine's night, all the young people, all dressed in their prime, all out looking for girlfriends, boyfriends. I mean, I can relate to it, I was that age. And a fire started, they all headed the exit, and the exits were chained up and locked. 49 of them died, and then, as usual, people started to blame the young people for starting the fire and that, you know, blame the victims, blame the victims, put the blame on them, and it wasn't. All the fire escapes were all locked. They never stood a chance. Just left the Stardust, where it was tragic. 49 young people died in the prime of their life. Now this is the Bloody Sunday graves here. I mean, I don't think anybody needs any introduction to Bloody Sunday, but the difference between the multiple deaths here and say the Stardust was, this was committed by the state, broad daylight in front of cameras. And these are all neighbours of mine here. The Nashes live behind us, and Dunree Gardens, and the Kellys live down below us, and Dunmore, and my own cousin was killed that day, Jackie Duddy. Somebody had the idea maybe they should bury them all together, but a lot of families requested that their loved ones should go into their family plot amongst, like, just say for my own cousin Jackie Duddy, he went into the family plot along with his mother, as requested. 5 of them from here, and also one of the most visited sections of the city cemetery by tourists, locals, visitors alike. Very somber part of it, very tragic reminder of the past, but it's very personal to the families, and everything. You've got the history of the world's in the cemetery. This part of the cemetery here would be the early 1970s, so if you see the number of flagpoles that represent Republican dead and that, but the troubles would be here 1971, 72, 70, just past the Bloody Sunday graves, which was on 30th of January 1972, and brings us here to Manus Derry, murdered by British troops 19th of May 1972, and Ranger Wooly Best, who lived just over here. Was home on leave from the army in Germany, and he was killed on the 21st of May. Now, Wooly Best and Manus Derry had been at school together in St Joseph's, my old school, and Wooly Best had went to the wake of Manus Derry on the 19th of May, and then William Wooly Best himself was killed on the 21st of May, and they're buried here side by side. And I think it reflects some of the complexities, the troubles here. Very sad, I think, too. We've come down here from then, and this is would be the Provisional Republican plot. The volunteers, the IRA, Ogla Iron, all the different battalions. And I think there's an organisation called the National Graves Association, actually care and tend for these graves and that. And this is where they would hold the Easter commemorations, and all the major speeches that throughout the troubles and the conflict would have been made from here. It's a very revered and honoured place for Irish Republicans, and it's actually quite impressive. Like it's sort of more grandeur than, say, the British Legion, you know, for the World War graves. And I didn't knew all these people here. John Brady would have been in there too, down in Malin Garden. James Downey's buried here, 23 years of age, died in 1916 July. Easter Rising was in April, May, June, July. So 3 months after Easter Rising he died, and he actually was in France. So people see a wee grave here and they say he was in the Royal Irish Regiment and he was a soldier in the First World War. But there's a bigger story to that. James Downey was a very prominent member of the Irish Volunteers 1st Battalion. This is his postcard. And this is a picture of them on parade down where the Roswell Flats was, down on Roswell Street, the cattle market. This was their flag. And this is James here, his child, and the wee locket, and that's his wedding ring. And that's his widow in Fulton Place in the Bogside in the 1950s. And here's the postcard asking them to join the Irish Brigade, the Irish National Volunteers from the Derry Company, to go to St Colum's Hall in 1914 and join the Irish Brigade. So there's a huge story here, and one of his comrades here wrote the letter to his wife, sympathising on his death, and one of them wrote here was Wally Foster. Wally Foster died in 1988, lived a great old long life up here, and so rather than just being a British soldier that fought in the First World War, he was a patriotic Irishman, an Irish national volunteer that went off to fight for the rights of small nations, like so many. Remember, as they speak, that after the First World War, the Spanish flu wiped out far more people than was ever killed in the war. And I just read a newspaper report that in 1 week in this cemetery in 1919, with the Spanish flu, there were 50 people buried in the 1 week. Now you should remember that over the years, there's probably every year there's about 400 people buried on here. I think there's about 80,000 in total burials on here. But in 1 week, 50 people with a Spanish flu, and the following week there was 20. They had to bring in extra grave diggers from other places. I mean, that is a lot of people in the 1 week from a small town. But the Spanish flu in 1919, 1912 wiped out millions, 9-10 million people. These two graves side by side really show the complexities of Irish history. With Commander James McGlinchey here, founder and commander of the Irish National Volunteers in Derry in 1812-22, and buried beside him is Oglach James Keenan, IRA. He was very active in 1919-20-21 in Derry during the War of Independence and that, but both of them had served in the British Army. James Keenan, I think he was a World War I veteran, and then two ardent Republicans, nationalists, buried side by side. It's all the history of the words in here, the history of the city. These graves here, if you look here, this was killed at Skeog down at Bridge End there in the 1920s. It takes us right back to the Irish Civil War, the War of Independence. With the Gallaghers here, 21 years old, 1922, shot by Free State soldiers, Drumbo Castle, Irish Civil War. So as we move down the cemetery, we're moving down, and the history is moving back the ways back to the Irish Civil War, the War of Independence, and the further down we go, the more historical it gets, the further back. It's in chronological order. This here is a very sad part of the cemetery here. There are thousands of people buried here. They're the paupers. Right up until the 1940s when the workhouse closed over there, these are the people that had nobody belonging to them, had no money to bury themselves, and no headstones, nothing to commemorate, no flowers from families to come over. It's actually really sad, it's really somber. You can see here the indentations of their graves, you can see, and there's thousands of them buried here that had nobody there, nothing. And they say that in cemeteries the world over that your headstone usually reflects the grandeur that you had in life and your status. And look, they have nothing. So they were the people that had nothing. It's a very sad thing.